All right, hello everybody. It's the Montessori Monster, and we're going to be looking at stamp game subtraction. So I've found over the years, sometimes children are a little intimidated by this. I think they just, sometimes it sounds like a big new lesson or something that's going to be challenging. Now they should have done the golden beads subtraction. That's static. So hopefully they're okay with things and feeling easy, but you don't want to assume that, so you want to kind of go slow and careful at first. I often like to tell children, like, well, there's some actual ways that this could be easier than addition, and I'm going to show you why it could feel easier to you. You're going to do just fine, that sort of thing. So again, like with almost all the math lessons, I'm going to do a problem, and then I'm going to have them do one or two with me. We'll kind of work together, and then they'll try one or two on their own, depending on time and the child, their confidence level, how they're doing. These sort of lessons are great to do one-on-one if you can, but sometimes you have 2 or 3 children with you, and you kind of need to watch all, if you have 3 children, you got to watch all 3 of them, ask them questions, and sort of assess how they're doing during the lesson to see what they can handle and what they're ready for. So I'm showing sort of a typical lesson. You can make adjustments as needed. So I have a stamp game box, interesting layout. Not 100% sure this box is meant for stamp game. I prefer the kind that have the 4 sets in a row, the 4 spots in a row, so your place values can all be lined up in a line. But this one works. It's okay. Also, many sets I found are lacking in thousands, the thousands tiles. This one happens to have a lot of extra tens. Maybe when I'm done teaching, I'll walk over to my math shelf and kind of even things out a little bit. So I'm going to write our problem here. I'm going to use one of these pens again. You certainly don't have to, but it helps with the colors matching the place value. I want to do pretty small numbers this first time. Again, as an adult, this is going to seem a little easy to you, and that's okay. It's more about the language and the speed and the style in which you teach that's so important. So you want to think carefully, make sure you're not putting a dynamic problem in here. So make sure that top number is bigger than the bottom number at all times. For the static, try to have some variation, mix it up a little bit. I sometimes don't get this quite right. Sometimes I'll have like 3 4s in a row or something like that, because there's only so many possibilities you're going to get. In my classroom, children glue these papers into their notebook. So I often write the child's name up at the top, and if it's a new lesson, I'll write the date and my initials to show that I was teaching them that lesson. So I like to read the numbers. Here we have 6,827 taking away or minus 3,412. I might have a child read that back. We can look at that number a little bit more to start off the lesson. And then they place it off to the side. You can use this mat or not. I like it when I'm teaching and the early parts of when they're trying, particularly a new math work. But here I say, like, wow, this is unusual. This is kind of neat. You've been doing addition for a while. Now we're just going to lay out the top number. We don't have to lay out the bottom number. We only need to put out the 6,827. So it's only half as many tiles to put out. Okay, so that should be a little bit easier. I've found over the years that sometimes children it takes them a long time to lay out the problem. The math does not seem to be too difficult in most cases. It's really the sort of the logistics of laying things out and keeping your focus. So we've got 6,000, and then we have 800. I like to be pretty neat with these on these first problems. It can be hard to focus as a teacher because you've got the sounds of the classroom and kids wiggling around, and you have to stay super focused and sort of block out most other things. Just kind of consider yourself in a bubble when you're doing your lesson. 20. can tell these tiles have been in different sets when they've been well loved, and that's okay. I kind of like that. I think we do have one pretty new set in the classroom. These retail for maybe $30 or so. That's without the mat, so. Okay, let me double check that. 6,827. Okay, you know, here they've been working with the stamp game, some with addition already. So I might ask, oh, where do we start? Remember, this will be facing towards the child, not towards you. Where do we start at? Most of the time they're gonna know. They're almost always gonna point to the unit side and get that correct. But make sure of that. Sometimes they just see green and they go for green. Make sure they start at the unit side. Okay, well, how many do we take away? Well, let's look at our problem. In the units place on the far right side, everybody know right from left? On that right side, there's a 2. Okay, so we're gonna take away 2. All right, that leaves how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try to do a lot of self-talk a little bit with a lesson. Okay, 5. Let's write that down. And the child should write that. They should be using pencil, not pen. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next one. We have 20, and we need to take away how many? I sometimes act like I'm not sure and stuff and see if they say, oh, okay, 1. Okay, leaving how many? Well, that one's pretty straightforward. Okay, that leaves 1. Let's make sure we've got that written down correctly. Yep. Okay, moving on. They start to catch on here. They usually get this pretty well. Okay, we're taking away 4 in the hundreds place. Got it. Okay, I'm gonna double check. 1, 2, 3, 4. That beautiful sound of the tiles dropping is another way to check, which leaves 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we need to write down a 4 in our hundreds place. And then in the thousands place, how many do you think? How many do you think we take away? It's interesting how many children will kind of try to guess or try to remember. And I'm always saying, like, look at the paper, you know, look in your notebook. What is it? Now, if I have multiple children in the lesson, I'm writing the same problems for all of them. Oh, it's a 3. Okay, 3. Let's count. 1, 2, 3. And we'll drop them in and maybe here. 1, 2, 3. All right, that leaves us with 3. So let's make sure we have that written down correctly. 3,415. Great. All right, let's try a couple more, and you all can try to do more of them, and I'll kind of watch a little bit more. I would say something like that. All right, well, thanks for watching. That's the basic ideas of stamp game subtraction that's static. Static meaning no exchanging. Thank you for watching, everyone.